An Oklahoma teen died after being assaulted in a school bathroom for identifying as non-binary. Nex Benedict, a 16-year-old from Owasso, Oklahoma, was a victim of transphobic violence, and it just happened to have happened not long after the state signed one of their anti-trans bathroom bans. Now, this teen was repeatedly bullied over their identity, and on February 7th, they and a fellow trans student were violently assaulted in a bathroom by three older cisgender teen girls. The fighting left Nex bruised, with wounds on their face and eyes, scratches on the back of their head, reported The Independent. Apparently, during the altercation, they had hit their head on the floor, hard enough to cause significant damage. The day after the assault, they collapsed in their living room floor and died as a result of a severe head injury, or at least that's what we believe happened. So we're not going to know the exact details of the cause of death until the medical examiner results get back. But so far, we believe it's the result of a massive head injury. Now, there are some huge failures here, okay? Now, number one, talk about the bathroom bill. And it's the obvious thing, right? This was signed by Governor Kevin Stitt. Now, Republicans said, well, we need this, right? We're just looking out for the girls. We're protecting the girls from the evil biological males that are dressing up as girls and going into the bathrooms, which isn't actually happening. I'm a biological male, okay? I've never had the desire to put on a dress and sneak into the ladies' room, okay? You know why? Because that doesn't happen. The vast majority of biological men are not secretly, desiring to go into the girls' bathroom and are not, actually doing it by putting on a dress and a wig. That's not what's happening, okay? That said, trans women are not men. They're women, okay? And the reason they're going into the bathroom, of which they identify, is to relieve themselves, which is kind of what bathrooms are for, okay? But because there is this weird right-wing moral panic against transgender girls, they can't even do that without being harassed or assaulted. More than 3/4 of transgender students across the country, about 76%, reported that they felt unsafe at school because of their identity. This is according to a 2021 GLSEN report. Now, they're also 5 times more likely to be threatened or attacked while at school than their peers, according to data from the Trevor Project. So being transgender, being non-binary, really does put a target on your back as a result of a lot of the rhetoric we hear from right-wingers or people who are so-called gender critical. Now, the next failure here, of course, is the school system itself. All right? They failed to call in an ambulance or police following a brutal assault. Again, Nex was bloody as a result of this. But what happened? Nex got suspended. Not the girls that attacked Nex, but they did. Okay? They got suspended. Instead, the mother took Nex to the medical center, actually, technically Nex's biological grandmother. And while there, they ended up speaking to a school resource officer about what happened. Later on, they were discharged from that medical center. Nex then went to bed that night, obviously very sore from that assault. And then there was another visit to a medical center that day. Nex collapsed in the living room. When first responders showed up, they found that Nex had stopped breathing. They were taken to the hospital where they were later on that evening pronounced dead. So just a horrible situation here. Owasso PD spokesperson Nick Boatman told The Independent that police were awaiting the results of the toxicology and autopsy reports from the Oklahoma Medical Examiner's Office before determining whether anyone will be charged. Well, what about the girls that beat Nex up in the bathroom? I mean, that's clear assault. Now, Mr. Boatman said all charges will be on the table once a cause of death is confirmed. Now, a lot of people are I think, correctly calling this a hate crime, and here's why. So there's an Owasso high school teacher who Nex had greatly admired that ended up having to be resigned in 2022. Why? Well, it has to do with this lady right here, rhetoric, who is the person who runs Libs of TikTok. So this account, of course, if you're unfamiliar, it basically will take, cringe videos, sometimes just people, that are teachers, that are LGBTQ+, and we'll lie about them. We'll call them groomers and pedophiles and take them out of context and things like that. And so, that's what she does, okay? And she has a massive following as a result of that. So now the video one of the videos that Libs of TikTok had posted was Tyler Wynn, who's a teacher in Owasso. And he was filmed telling students that he was proud of them and encouraged them to love themselves for who they are, despite any outside pressures, adding that if, quote, your parents don't accept her for who you are, F them. Now look, spicy language aside, that's a very positive and affirming message. Okay, that's like an after-school special message. Love you for who you are, and F the haters. All right. So some people though got very, very upset over that message, and Rin was forced to resign after numerous harassment and even death threats. Which, of course, if you're targeted by Libs of TikTok, you're going to end up getting death threats, harassment. If you happen to be a children's hospital, bomb threats. So that's what happens when Libs of TikTok features you in a video. Okay? Now, Nex's legal guardian, biological grandmother, Miss Benedict, told The Independent, quote, Nex was very angry about when resigning. She added that teachers who encouraged debate about gender issues were not promoting sexualized content, unlike, again, what rhetoric is claiming. I just mentioned she will take these videos and then label you, oh, look at they're grooming your children. This is how they're grooming your children. Groomer, pedophile, groomer. Again, that's not true. The vast majority of groomers you usually find in the churches. Let's be real about that, all right? Now, it's not just rhetoric, though, being blamed for spreading the kind of hatred that has been getting LGBTQ+ kids killed. It's also the superintendent, Ryan Walters. Now, Ryan Walters actually recently, in January, appointed rhetoric to the State Department of Education's Library Media Advisory Committee. So, again, it's a result of her work with Libs of TikTok. Now, Walters was Oklahoma's Secretary of Education for 3 years before his election as Superintendent of Public Instruction, and it just so happens that that department released a video last year about transgender students, in which Walters had said that the trans movement was, quote, an assault on truth. Funny, a Republican talking about that, who, doesn't actually follow any of the science, for example, on climate change. And again, also doesn't follow any of the science on trans issues. Okay? But he said, quote, we have injected radical gender theory and telling kids they might be other genders. Oh my God, could you imagine being another gender? Yeah, guess what? Trans people have always existed. Always existed, always will exist. And so, I'm sorry, you can't shove every single person into one of two boxes. That's just not the reality. Human beings, and especially sexuality and identity, are very complicated issues. All right, very complicated things. People identify as different things all the time, and guess what? It doesn't hurt anybody for you to do that. But what does hurt is bigotry, as you can see here. Now, Walters also said that this is dangerous and it puts our girls in jeopardy. Does it though? Again, when you read the stats on who gets assaulted in bathrooms, it's transgender people by a huge margin. All right. And so what's going on is people like Walters and Rychik have actually put trans and non-binary students in jeopardy by putting out all this hateful rhetoric, stuff that is untrue. And trans people, look, they're not a danger to children. What's a danger to children is bigots and hate mongers. Okay? Nex's death just happens to be another reminder of that incredibly sad and disastrous fact.